Hi vinyl community, John here. So this is just a video to show everybody about my trip over to Aylesbury near Oxford to be part of a record fair. And I had a little bit of a VC meetup, well, quite a big VC meetup I guess. Spent a lot of time with Martin Parrott, who was the person that introduced me to this record fair thing. I'd never done it before, so I didn't quite know what to expect, and it was quite an adventure. So look here now and see, you know, how that all went, and then afterwards I'll show you the records that I came back with, i.e. the ones that I hadn't taken out but I'd acquired while I was away and brought back here. Okay, enjoy. I'm on the road. I'm actually driving towards from Barry, driving towards Oxford, where I will meet up with fellow vinyl community YouTuber Martin Parrott. On several occasions Martin has invited me over to go to their local record fair that happens close to where he lives, and I've always wanted to go along to it, but it's never quite worked out for whatever reason, you know, family commitments and so on. So I asked him to let me know when the next one would be, and that I would book that time and date in advance so as to be sure that I could go along to it. So he did. I think he sent me a time already in June, July, that the next one would be in September. I got about, I don't know how many records. I got 3 boxes in the back of my car, just cast-offs of my own, you know, ones that I've got duplicate copies of, ones that I've rejected, you know, maybe I bought them blind buys at car boot sales and things and decided I don't need them. And so I'm quite the novice when it comes to selling records. It's something I've never actually ever done before, and I've certainly never been to a record fair before. I understand this is quite a small one, but well, it'll be an experience anyway. So I'm heading off over to Martin's now. He's going to put me up overnight because we got to quite an early start, I think, in the morning to get to this place in good time. So, well, we'll see what it becomes. Looking forward to meeting Martin again, and looking forward to seeing what happens. Okay. We're really going there? Yeah, it's my flip camera. That's not even a phone. So here's Martin flipping through the 3 boxes of records which I've driven here with, pulling out some goodies, I think. Particularly fond of the Sam Fox record. And here's his records ready to go tomorrow.
Do you want me to point out the boxes?
No, it's that one,
yeah,
that one,
this one, and this
that
one.
Excellent. And I've looked through them, and there's some good stuff in there. I can't believe he's selling most of it. I don't really understand why, but there you go. Oh, and we had a few pints tonight. And
we had 3 pints.
And a kebab.
Yeah, I had a burger.
Right, so here's the back of my car, loaded up with records. Here's Martin's records, looking very, very professionally prepared and neatly done, and his expensive record boxes. And here's me and my little rinky-dinky boxes I could lay my hands on in the last minute. Ready? Ready to sell some records?
Yeah.
Excellent. Right, record fair. anyway, so yeah, that was quite the experience. I'll say now, I didn't do so well. I didn't really make any huge amount of money from the sale of records. If anything, I probably only just about covered my cost of petrol there and back. But I think I was probably quite, I was actually quite unprepared. I didn't really know what form this was going to happen in, and how it was going to work, and that sort of thing. And you can tell the people there that sell records in these things, they're very, they know really what they're doing. They spend a lot of time pricing up their records individually. They had their posh boxes like Martin Parrott had. Yeah, and they looked the biz, so they did a great job. I was just sort of the happy amateur there, selling records that I didn't really want to have myself. Actually, at the end, one of the sellers there, I think there's a guy called Wayne, or Shane, I don't know. He said to me how to do, and I said, oh, not so well. And he said, well, maybe next time you want to try not to have so many common records in your boxes to sell. And I had to say to him, well, yeah, but I'm a collector. I don't want to sell things that I want to keep myself. I generally keep anything that appeals to me, and I would have a hard time selling these things. And that was something that I found quite interesting with Martin Parrott's collection that he was selling. I mean, he wasn't selling his collection, but ones that he had obviously had to sell. Was that, he was selling Frank Zappa records and things. If I had a Frank Zappa record, I wouldn't sell it. It would be in my collection. There's quite a few of those records in Martin's boxes, but oh well, each to their own, I suppose. If I did it again, I would be much more better prepared. I would sort of price things individually. Otherwise, what happens, I suppose, at the end when I was there, and finally I had to make a decision how much I'm going to charge for these records. I just had 3 boxes, so I had a £1 box, a £2 box, and then a £5 box for ones that were perhaps a little bit nicer, a little bit more desirable, I guess. And I sold a few, just not quite as many as... I'm going to show you the records that I came home with. First off, there are 2 records. So there was a guy there, he had some boxes. I think the cheapest records he was selling there were £5, and he came and looked for my stuff and picked out a couple and said, do you want to swap these? And that seems to be what they do. They sort of have this big internal swap amongst themselves before the customers come to buy their records, which is quite nice, I suppose. Now this guy, he picked out a couple from mine, and well, they're already ones that I didn't want to have anyway, so it wasn't such a big deal. But he said, pick a couple out of my £5 box, if you like, and we'll do a swap. So I did, and he had a really nice looking copy of the first Green Slade album, which I would have loved to have had. Yeah, it's probably a little bit of a grail for me. I'd love to have that one. And there it was. Alright, it was a reissue, it wasn't an original or anything, but it was in good shape, and it's just an album I haven't got. And I thought, well, I'll go back and grab that later on, but yeah, half an hour later when I actually did the exchange with him, he'd already sort of swapped that with somebody else, or somebody else had bought it from him. So that was that. So I had to flip through his £5 boxes and see if there's anything else that I was interested in. I must admit, this is another grail of mine. So this is the very first Fleetwood Mac album. Yeah, it's a reissue. It's in good shape, very very good shape. But it's an album that I didn't have. It's on Embassy. There you go. and it's you just don't see the sort of the very early Fleetwood Mac albums, do you? So I was well happy to have acquired this, and it didn't really cost me anything. Just swapped it with a record I didn't want to have. And the second one I picked out was this one. This is Dave Brubeck Quartet, and Jimmy Rushing. So yeah, quite nice swaps. Quite happy with those. It's on it's on Fontana. There you go. So those are the two that I swapped with Wayne, or Shane, whatever his name was. The other records I came back with are the ones that I swapped with Martin, actually, the night before we actually went to the Fair. So yeah, Martin has shown the records that he and I swapped the night before in his video, and well, I think you'll probably agree with me that I got the better deal. I mean, he took a couple of 12 inches. One of them was a Samantha Fox one, but he was sort of picking out ones to give to me, which I was quite happy to have. So this is the Dave Brubeck Quartet, Time Further Out. I believe that this is a sort of a sequel or a follow-up album to the Time Out LP. It's really good. I like it a lot. Yeah, as a sort of a new person to jazz, it's just one of those things that I think, wow, so happy to have that. Didn't even know it existed before. Another one which he suggested I take along was this one. So this is the Oscar Peterson Trio, Night Train, on Verve. I've had my eyes on this for a long time, but I haven't managed to sort of find it in a state that I was sort of interested in paying for, whereas this is in lovely shape, and yeah, we swapped it. I mean, I think this was probably a direct swap for the U2 album that Martin was happy to have. So that was a great swap. The Thelonious Monk Orchestra at Town Hall. This is great. I don't know what I can say about that, really. It's a nice record. I've got some good jazz stuff. Then there's this one, which Martin suggests I take along as well. This is a compilation album, double compilation album. It's called The Big Ball, and it's got sort of like a booklet thing inside, talking about the tracks and the artists. So it's sort of a collection of tracks by, who have we got on here? Arlo Guthrie, who else have we got? Beach Boys, the Fifth Avenue Band, we've got Van Morrison. There's a Fleetwood Mac track on here, early. Pentangle, Small Faces, the Grateful Dead. Yeah, so it's quite a impressive compilation album. So it was really fun to have. And then the last record, which I took from Martin, was this one. It's called Yesterday, Today, Forever. This is sort of a double concept album. Martin did put it on, and we sort of listened to it. By this time we were a few pints down, so you know, I had my sort of beer goggles on, and it sounded fairly okay. How could I describe it? Well, I think it's kind of a biblical record. It's supposed to be a sort of concept album based on some biblical passages. I haven't really listened to it since then. It's quite a long, lengthy record, so eventually I'll get round and give this some quality time and listen to it. But no, Martin was, I don't know, he seemed to be quite keen to hand this over to me and for me to take it away. I got the impression that he didn't feel that he needed to keep it any longer than he did. Anyway, so that's the records that I came home with. A great stash. So yeah, that was my trip over to Aylesbury and my experience of being part of the record fair and meeting up with Martin. Had a great time with Martin, really enjoyed our time together. We managed to get a few pints in, an evening walk around his hometown, and it really was quite nice. I always say this to Martin when I've met him, although I've only met him twice, is that I can always remember a time sitting in my computer room in Sweden, in my house there, listening to him talk about you know, the record meetings that he goes to in his local pub, and being involved in these things like this record fair. And I was sort of, when I was in Sweden listening to this, I was dead envious, because I just felt like, oh, I'd love to go to a pub, I'd love to meet people and talk about records, I'd love to do all these things. And well, the part of Sweden where I lived was, that just didn't happen. So it's really nice to be living here in the UK now and being able to sort of actually take part and sort of be involved in these things. It's like I'm living the dream. Alright, well, thank you very much, everybody. We've got a few more videos coming up, so take care and check out my next video. Bye.